everyone, welcome back for episode number 144 of the weekly playback. I can't believe I'm almost at 150. So it is June 1st and I am wearing a sweater because I've had my heat on for like a few days now at least. Like the weather has just been so awful over here, but then starting again tomorrow, I think we're actually supposed to have summer weather. So knock on wood, like let's hope that that happens actually, because you know it's June and I would like to officially turn off my heat. But yeah, anyway, this is going to be a shorter episode because I only have like 2 games to talk about. So yeah, so let's just get into it. Let's talk about Through the Desert. So this is a 1998 game by Rainer Knizia for 2 to 5 players. This is the new edition, which I don't know what year this came out in. I'm guessing 2025, but I honestly do not know, with artwork done by Hian Lei and Damien Mamoliti. So this is published by All Play Games, and this is a review copy that I received from Asmodee USA. So I had never played Through the Desert before, and I really enjoyed it. So I played a 4-player game of this. So in this game, you are going to be building routes of caravans. So if you watched my unboxing video, I had no idea what I was doing when I was sorting out these components, but got it figured out finally. So each player is going to have just 5 different caravan leaders in their own player color, and you will have a token that reminds you of what your player color is, which is very helpful because you're going to see a bunch of different camels with different people's caravan leaders on them in different colors, and it can get a little bit confusing. So it's really helpful to have a token in front of you to remind you of what color you are. And even despite having the token, I still started placing camels in someone else's caravan at one point, because when I play board games, I always choose purple as my player color. So I just went to someone's purple camel and just started adding purple camels to their caravan leader when it wasn't my leader. So yeah, so it can be a little bit confusing, but you know, just you'll get used to it. Like, I think I made that mistake only once, to be honest. So you're going to have a bunch of camels in different colors, and these camels, everyone will be placing down. So there are a total of 5 different colors of camels. So you've got like this pretty teal color, like this kind of lime green color, purple, like this pretty coral kind of color, and like this yellow color. So these are the different camels, and there's a set number of camels in each color, so those will be equal throughout the game. Then you're going to have these oases placed throughout the board. So wherever you see an oases hex, you will place a palm tree. There's not enough palm trees to cover all the oases though, but that's okay. So you're going to randomly place these out onto the oases hexes onto the board. So these palm trees are really nice. I really like the 3D aspect of this game. And then finally, here are the hex tiles, and depending on which side of the board you're using, that will determine which side of the hex tile you're using. So these are going to be placed out onto watering holes and any remaining oases hexes that did not have palm trees placed onto them. So you're going to shuffle these up and randomly place these out onto different hexes that have watering holes or oases that were not covered up. And they are numbered 1 through 3. So again, that's going to be random. So you don't want to really pay attention to where you're placing them. And then finally, you have these 5-point tokens that come in the river color as well as the regular desert color. And then you have the board. So let me show you the board. So the board is double-sided, and on one side you have the regular desert side, which looks like this. And then on the other side, you have a side that has a river. So, and it looks like it's nighttime, which I really like. So you see like the different like kind of like tents and little areas lit up, which I really like. So I think I like the nighttime side better just because it looks really pretty. There are spaces on this board which you're going to ignore if you're not playing with the expansion, so you just treat them as regular hexes. So after you've done the basic setup of putting out all of these hexes on the watering holes and any remaining oases, and after placing your palm trees on the oases hexes, then what you're going to do is in player turn order, 1 by 1, place a caravan leader onto a space that is not adjacent to another caravan leader or an oasis. So you probably want to place them next to these which were placed out, but you cannot place them next to palm trees. So you're going to go in player order, and every player has to place a different camel color than the player who just placed before them. And that's really not a problem because every player has 5 different colored camels. So you should be able to do that. And then, starting with the first player on your first turn, you are going to be able to select 1 camel. So the first 2 players, because they were able to place out their camels first, their caravan leaders first, for their first turn, they're only going to get to place 1 camel. But then after that, they'll get to place 2 camels like everyone else. So you're going to take 2 camels and extend your caravan. So you can take the same 2 colors, or you can take 2 different colors and extend your own caravan. So what you cannot do is have a caravan of yours touching another player's caravan of the same color. So when you were placing out your caravan leaders during setup, you were also kind of strategically trying to pay attention to where people were placing their camels, because you would kind of want to, at least I wanted to avoid having my camels be near any other player's camels of the same color, because I wanted space to expand my caravan, which of course is going to help you get more and more points. So anyway, so when you place a camel, you're extending your caravan, and you are doing this in order to gain points. So I guess we'll just talk about scoring. So anytime you have a caravan that lands on one of these hex tiles, you take it. So anytime you place a camel on one of these hex tiles, you take it, and that's going to be points for you. So naturally, you want to try to place camels on these various hex tiles. Another thing you want to do is try to place camels adjacent to the oases, because every time you do that, you are going to get a 5-point token. Now, not every time. So what if you do it with 1 color camel? For example, if my purple caravan went adjacent to an oasis, I would get a 5-point token. But the next time, if a purple camel of mine and my caravan touches an oasis, the same oasis that is, I'm not going to get a 5-point token again. So I could have 2 of my purple camels touching an oasis, but I would only get 1 5-point token for that. But other players can have also their camels touching the same oases to get a 5-point token. And you can have your caravan touching multiple oases in order to get multiple 5-point tokens for the same caravan. So you want to touch oases, you want to land on these hexes to collect these in order to get points, and you want to create enclosures. And an enclosure is basically where your caravan creates a space that no other people can now go to. So, but you cannot create an enclosure if there's other people's caravans or leader in that section. So you cannot block off someone's leader. You're not allowed to do that. But if you've created a location where, and you can use the edge of the board, and you can also use some terrain that's in the middle of the board that cannot have camels put on it as kind of an edge as well. And then when you do that, if there are any unclaimed hexes within the enclosure you created, you would collect all of those unclaimed hexes, and those would be your points. And then at the end of the game, you're going to score 1 point for each empty hex in your enclosure. So if you can strategically create a big enclosure with a lot of empty hexes, that can be a good number of points. If you're playing with the riverside, anytime your caravan crosses a river, you will gain 5 points. And again, it works similarly to the oases. So if the same caravan crosses the river, you're not, again, going to collect another 5-point token. But multiple caravans of yours of different colors can cross the river. So that will give you a 5-point token if you cross the river. Otherwise, the riverside plays just like the desert side. So you're basically going to go around and around placing your camels. And then you're going to go to so let me talk about game end. So the game ends when a player places the last camel of any one color, and then they finish their turn and the game immediately ends. and then you will score, or the game can also end in the rare case that a player can't legally place a camel on their turn. So that could happen, for example, if a player needs to place a camel and the only spot for some reason is next to a caravan of the same color, so you could not place a camel there because then you could not distinguish whose caravan that camel belongs to. So again, that's why you have to keep your caravans of one color separate from other caravans of the same color. So once the game ends, you go to final scoring. So now you're going to award 10 points to the largest caravan of a single color. So each color has a largest caravan token associated with it. So you'll count up the camels of each person in that specific color, and whoever has the most camels of that color will gain the largest caravan token for that color. If there's a tie, each player takes a 5-point token instead. Then you're going to add up all the points from your tokens. That includes the hexes you collected as well as your 5-point tokens. And then you're going to add 1 point for each empty hex you have in your enclosed areas. And then whoever has the most points will win. So that is Through the Desert. So it's just a really fun kind of like abstract area control game. I really enjoyed it because it's like an area control game that's not like a war game. And you don't have like all these additional cards that you're adding in that can like do different things to other players. It's just a very basic, super quick area control game, and it's got this like, you know, really nice 3D element to it with the camels. Like I really enjoy all of these camel pieces. Like it's just so much fun placing down the camels and seeing all the things pop outside of the out of the board. Just really, really nice. So just really fun kind of area control abstract game that plays very quickly. So we played both sides of the board at our game night. So we played first the desert side and then the nighttime river side, and it was just really enjoyable both times. So I would highly recommend it. So if you've never checked out Through the Desert, I would recommend checking it out if you enjoy like abstract games or area control games. And it's just a quick playing game. So I think it could kind of be a little bit of a longer filler game even, to be honest, as long as you don't have like serious AP. But yeah, super fun. I didn't win either of the games. I did come in second place, I think, in one of the games, if I remember correctly, and I think I came in last place in one of the games. In the first game, I came in last place. And the player who won, he said that basically in a 4-player game, he thinks that the key to winning is to getting at least 2 of the longest caravan tokens. And maybe he's correct, because in the first game I played, I created an enclosure, which I thought was really good and was a big enclosure, but it wasn't enough for me to win. And in fact, I came in last place. But I really enjoy this, and I'm really curious about the expansion. Like, I'm not someone who plays a lot of expansions, but I actually really want to see what the expansion adds to this game, like the Bazaar expansion, I think it's called. So I'm going to see if I can try to get a review copy of that and play with that. And I don't know if that's like new. I wonder if that's new or if that's also from 2018. And let's see, Through the Desert. Oh no, that's from 2024. So I think that this is a 2024 game actually, and Through the Desert Bazaar is a 2024 expansion. And it's rated 7.2. So yeah, I would actually really like to check out this expansion and see what that adds. It looks pretty cool. Yeah, so again, really quick game, really easy to learn, highly recommend it. Just fun. I think it's fun. So that was Through the Desert, and thank you again to Asmodee USA for sending me this review copy. So let's move on. Another game I played recently is Galileo Project, which is a 2022 game for 2 to 4 players designed by Adrian Hesling, and the art is done by David Sitman, and it's published by Sorry We Are French. So this is an open drafting kind of set collection game. So I don't own this game, so I'll just describe it kind of briefly. So in this game, you, I guess, are exploring the moons of Jupiter or some other planets, and you've actually, let me just read the kind of description of it. So maybe that can kind of help set the scene. So in Galileo Project, you play as the same corporations involved in the events of Ganymede and settle the 4 satellites of Jupiter by acquiring robots from Earth and Mars, recruiting experts, developing technologies, and building superstructures. Okay, so I guess it's part of some other universe. So it says it's a standalone game in the Ganymede universe, combining combos and engine building. So yeah, so in this game, you're gonna have two tracks, and one is an Earth track, which is blue, and one is a Mars track, which is red. And you're going to have kind of a marker that like keeps track of your influence on each track. So on your turn, you're going to do one of three different things. So you're either going to recruit someone or use their kind of ability. So you can, if you're on so you'll gain influence by doing that. And then you will go up on the appropriate track that you're on. And then if you are on the blue track, you will do the blue thing. So if it's at the top of the card, it'll be something that you activate immediately. If it's at the bottom of the card, you're going to tuck it underneath your board, and that will be end of game points. If you're on the red track, then you're going to do the red thing. So again, if it's on the top of the card, you're going to just do the ability and then discard the card. But again, if it's on the bottom, you're going to tuck it underneath your board. Now you can start the game with you have the ability to tuck two cards underneath your board to begin with, but by going up on one of the moon tracks, you will be able to increase that amount. So that's one of the things you can do on your turn. Another thing you can do on your turn is collect one of the cards at the top, and that I think is one of the technology cards or a robot card. I think they're called robots. So you need to pay in order to do that. So you're spending your influence, so you have to have enough influence. And then you're going to place it next to the kind of the moon that it goes next to. So some cards may have two different moons on them. Some may have just one moon colored on them, but you're going to place it next to your moon. And anytime you place a card next to your moon, that's when your influence marker on that specific moon increases. And if you happen to remove a card from a moon, your influence marker on that specific moon will decrease. So you're always counting up the number of points you kind of have associated with each moon and keeping track of that. And by going up on different moon tracks, you're gaining kinds of different abilities. So for example, if you go up on the moon that is on the top right of the board, you will be able to gain technology. Sorry, not technology. What's the word? It's these like little pink tokens. Energy. You'll be able to gain energy. And you need energy in order to buy technologies. So by placing cards that go next to that yellow moon, you'll be able to then hopefully get energy, which will help you to buy technologies. And technologies can be really beneficial. The moon that's underneath that, that will kind of, and every moon is going to give you points depending on where your marker is for that particular moon at the end of the game. The moon beneath that, you're going to basically just get points at the end of the game based on how many different like robots or whatever you have the most of, like a certain type. The gray moon, that is what, by going up on, you'll be able to start tucking more and more cards underneath your board for end of game scoring. And then the moon in the top left, I'm trying to remember what that one did. I actually don't remember what that one did. Let me see if I have a photo that shows me. Yeah, I don't know. Let me see. Where are my photos? I was just looking at the pictures on Board Game Geek, but let me see if I have a better picture within my own photos. I think I do. Oh yeah, here we go. That one, oh yeah, that reduces the cost. So that helps you to, by spending credits, which is like money, you can reduce the cost in order to collect, I guess, a robot. I'm just calling them robots. I actually don't know what the hell they are called, but yeah, so that's what that does. So yeah, so all the different moons have names. So the one I just talked about is Io, or yeah, Io, and then the yellow one was Europa, the brownish one was Callisto, and the gray one is Ganymede. I'll post photos here so that you can see the different tracks that you can go up on. So yeah, so basically those are the three kinds of different actions you can take on your turn. You're going to basically either purchase, but before you do that, you can also spend one credit to move from one influence track to the other with your marker. So you can go from Mars to Earth or Earth to Mars. Depending on what cards are there, you might want to move and switch in order to then do the benefit of a certain card. So that costs 1 credit, and that's the first thing you do. And then you either purchase, like we said, you either hire someone, which we talked about, so that's like the one-time action you do, or you tuck the card underneath your board, or you get a robot, or you purchase a technology, and you need energy in order to purchase technology. And you are limited to having 5 energy at one time, or a maximum of 10 credits at one time. But yeah, it's just kind of a fun engine builder game in which you're just kind of, and there's also in-game goals that you're trying to meet. And in a 4-player game, which is what we played, I would say that, actually scratch that. In a 4-player game, which is what we played, the technologies are a little bit harder to, so if there's an end goal that says you need all 4 different technologies, that of course is going to be a little bit harder to achieve, because there's only 3 technologies of each type available for purchase. And I really messed up in letting one player manage to get all 4. And I had the ability to buy a technology, but I don't know what I was thinking. It was towards the very end of the game, and I ended up doing something else, even though I had kept on telling myself I needed that technology. And I needed it anyway, just to get points, because I had a card tucked underneath my board that would give me points for how many technologies I had acquired. So it would have been helpful anyway to me. And it, not just to screw over the other player. But yeah, it's just like a fun little engine building kind of set collection kind of game. So yeah, I wouldn't say that it was the most interesting or most like fun game I've ever played, but it's an enjoyable game. Do I feel a need to have it in my collection? No, because like there's so many games that people have in their collections that do similar kinds of things, and so I don't feel a need to have it in my collection. And knowing a friend of mine has it, and if I'm ever like really dying to play this game again for some reason, I can just ask him to bring it to game night. I don't foresee that happening. Like for me, I think this one play was probably enough for me, just because the artwork didn't really appeal to me either. So the artwork is fine, but it's not like my favorite kind of artwork, so it's not a game I would see myself wanting to play over and over. But yeah, so that was Galileo Project. So let's move on. So I'm currently not backing anything. I'm kind of tempted to back Inish. I think it's pronounced Inish, that Irish area control game, like the big box version. I don't even own the base game, but kind of tempted to back that. But it seems a little bit expensive, but I also feel like it would come to retail. I don't know if my friendly local board game store is actually going to be backing it or getting copies of it, so maybe I should ask them that first. But let me see just how many days it has left, because that is a game I played once before a long time ago, and I really did enjoy it. And it's just a beautiful game with a beautiful production. And one of the reasons I kind of want it is for weird sentimental reasons that actually don't have anything to do with playing the game. So I don't know if you guys remember, if you've been watching my videos for a long time, then you would know a couple, not this PAX, the last PAX Unplugged, but I think it was the one before then, where I was on my way to the convention hall on the last day, which was Sunday, and I ran into these 2 guys who were kind of struggling with a kitten that they had just found, and then I just approached them and asked them what was going on. They also happened to be board gamers. They had on their PAX lanyards and stuff, and they said that they had found this kitten and they were taking it to a veterinarian, and they were just struggling a lot with it, so I decided to help them. And then the 3 of us went together to the veterinarian to drop off this kitten that they had found. And then the veterinarian asked us what we would like to name the kitten, so she was going to take care of it and then hopefully put it up for adoption. So they were the ones who found the kitten, so I was just kind of tagging along to help them and assist with the kitten and carrying it and everything like that. So I was like, you guys named the kitten because you found it. And so they named it after their favorite board game, which is Inish. So they named this little kitten that they had found, in which we had taken to the veterinarian, Inish. And because of that, I kind of feel like I want this board game just so I can remember that kitten and that experience, because it was a really nice experience. And it's just nice to see other humans when they help animals in need, and to see 2 board gamers, like 2 guys, helping this kitten, which was really, really sweet. It's something, you know, I don't mean to stereotype, but no, I really shouldn't stereotype, because there are a lot of men in this world who also really care for animals. So really, I don't think it's a gender thing. I think, you know, there are people, I don't know, I mean, I really don't know if there's been any studies done on this and that show whether one gender is more compassionate towards animals than another gender. I really don't know, so I should not stereotype, but it was just nice to see two guys who are board gamers helping a kitten. So that's why I kind of want to get the game finished, but it's kind of expensive, but let's see. It's got 15 days to go, and let me see if I can scroll down and see what the pledge levels are. So if you get, if you get everything, I guess it's not insanely expensive if you get everything. So the big box contains the core Inish game, the Seasons of Inish expansion, and the Inish Nemad expansion, and that is about $74. So it's in 65 euros, about $74. And then of course you would have to add on shipping, but I think I saw something about an Essen pickup, but I don't know how big this box is. So I would have to go through the comments and see how large this box is, because obviously I do want to go to Essen, and I'm planning on hopefully going to Essen, as long as, you know, the publisher who I worked for the last few years will still allow me, or be happy with me working for them. so we'll see. But I definitely am planning right now to go to Essen. So I don't, you know, and I would like to get games that would be more difficult to get into, you know, in the US. So I kind of don't want to clog up my suitcase, you know, with games that I'm backing on Kickstarter that I can just get shipped to me instead, even though shipping might be a little bit expensive. And with the tariff situation, who knows? So I don't know. So right now I'm not backing it. I'll see. Maybe I'll just ask the game store if they are going to receive it. So I received a game. So I received a review copy from Osprey Games, which is Line of Fire Burnt Moon. So this is a 2-player deck building game. So it says it's a 2-player deck building card game of machines warring across the volcanic surface of Io. Oh, which is the moon that we just talked about, one of Jupiter's moons, in the game that I just talked about, Galileo Project. Oh, that's funny. So yeah, so I'll just, it's a magnetic box. It's kind of similar to their box for that bear game, where it's a 2-player bear game. I don't remember what it's called now, but it's kind of similar to that. So you have these like little tuck boxes, and then you take it out, and then there's different cards and stuff. So let's just see what are on some of these cards. Yeah, so right now I have no idea how to play this, but it just looked really cool. And I do really enjoy deck building games. So, ooh, I really like that card. So I really wanted to check it out. So I'm happy that they sent it to me. Oh, and these ones feel a little bit different. Ooh, these are actually cardboard. So these are nice, like tiles. So yeah. And then there are some cardboard tokens of some kind. So yeah, so that's what this box has. And then the other box is kind of similar in that it has similar things in it. So it also has cards and tiles and stuff. So let's just see those. So here are the cards for this box. Oh, yeah, very similar looking cards, actually. These are just so pretty. Yeah. And then also has tiles. And those little cardboard tokens. Yeah, so the boxes are similar in what they have inside of them. And each person has their own little like manual, I guess, of how to play their faction, which is good. So yeah, so really looking forward to playing this. I just need to maybe set aside a day with a friend in order to play some 2-player games, because otherwise they are kind of hard to play. But otherwise, I've got no new arrivals to show, so let's move on. So let's go on to Fiction Book Club, and for this week we were supposed to read chapters, I believe, 8, 9, 10, and 11, if I remember correctly, right? Yes, I think so. Right? I think so. So yeah, so in this, I feel like we finally are starting to get a little bit of a plot, and so that's good, you know, with some interesting characters coming. I thought one of the, you know, funniest parts for me reading these few chapters was that one person who kind of started hanging out in the cafe without buying any drinks. He's like a student or something who was kind of doing research. I believe the person's name is Hemington. So I thought that that was really funny. So yeah, it's like, you know, because it's like kind of like real life where, you know, students kind of camp out in these cafes to do their work, to study, and sometimes don't even buy anything, or sometimes they might just buy something very small and very cheap and then stay in the cafe taking up space for hours and hours at a time. So it was just funny to see, like, in the fantasy world that the author is kind of, you know, mimicking what happens in real life. So that was funny. But yeah, so just, I feel like we're starting to get a little bit of a plot, so kind of, you know, happy about that and looking forward to seeing where it goes. Oh, my favorite part, actually, sorry, I take that back. My favorite part was not the student. My favorite part was the dire cat. I really loved the descriptions of the dire cat, and I'm like, I think it's so cool that they have a cat in their cafe as a mascot, and she sounds so cute, like really large and, you know, kind of ferocious, but also just really cute, like with the descriptions of this cat and the really loud purring. So yeah, so the cat is actually my favorite part, not the student. Yeah, so really excited that there's a cat in this book. So yeah, so I hope we see more of the cat and start learning more about what's going on and start getting more of a plot. So let me know what your favorite part was of the last few chapters. And for next week, so where did we leave off? What did we read? I'm really trying to remember where we stopped. I think, I honestly don't remember. I think for this week, for next week, we're going to, so I think we read up to 11, right? Yeah. So next time, read chapters 12, 13, 14, and 15. So yeah, so read chapters 12 to 15. So 12, 13, 14, and 15. Yeah, and hopefully I'll remember that. So yeah, so let me know what you think so far. It's a really quick read. Like I said, I think we'll be done soon enough with this book, and then we can decide if we want to read the other book, which is kind of a prequel to this book. But yeah, but we can decide that after. That book is called Bookshops and Bone Dust, by the way. So yeah, so let me know what you thought and how you're enjoying it. Yeah, and let's move on. So for Nonfiction Book Club, we were supposed to finally finish up this book. So yay, congrats to us for finishing this book, which is Palestine, a 4,000-year history. So we were supposed to read the rest of chapter 10, which is called Settler Colonialism and Disinheriting the Palestinians. So for this week, we were supposed to start on page 343 and read until the end. And oh my God, it was just, you know, more of the same, but just so infuriating. So, you know, we continue on with them, with the Zionists basically going through the process of changing all these names in Israel. And that includes all these people, right? So it includes people changing their names and Hebraicizing their names to make it seem like that they're indigenous to Palestine, which they're not. So let's just go through some of the quotes that I highlighted from this book that infuriated me the most. So first of all, the Prime Minister, David Ben-Gurion, so he was born as David Grun in Russia. Yeah. So it says that for him, the Hebrew Bible was reinvented as a nationalized and radicalized sacred text central to the modern foundational myths of secular Zionism. Okay. So yeah, so it says that his Zionism, so this is Ben-Gurion's Zionism, viewed the Bible in an entirely functional way. The biblical language, narrative, and place names functioned as a mobilizing myth and as an historical account of Jews, title to the land, a claim not necessarily borne out by recent archaeological findings. And as we see throughout this chapter, like they also had these like committees and like, you know, had archaeologists hired to try to basically cement the myth that Israel, the Jews are, that all Jews are native to Palestine, which is not true. All Jews are not native to Palestine, or indigenous to Palestine. And it says that he himself, Ben Gurion, explained, "It is not important whether the biblical story is a true record of an event or not. What is of importance is that this is what the Jews believed as far back as the period of the first temple." So here he is even acknowledging that it's not even important whether the Bible is a true record or not, but that they are taking it to be a true record and using it in order to conquer this land and colonize it and take it over. Just really infuriating. So as we saw already, that Zionism was reinventing Judaism and translating Jewish themes into political action. So it had ambitions to create a new Hebrew society that would be different from Jewish life in the diaspora. And it did not see multi-religious and pluralistic Jerusalem as the appropriate place for the founding of such a new society, which is why they then founded Tel Aviv. So then it talks a bit about Tel Aviv and all of that and blah, blah, blah. Yes. So yeah, it says most of the Jewish immigrants to Palestine, about 80%, settled along the Mediterranean coast, a region that, according to Avishai Margalit of the Hebrew University, had never been the historic homeland of the Jewish people. So while they're colonizing a land that they're not indigenous to, they also don't want to immediately start settling in places where there's Palestinians to remind them that they're not indigenous to this land. So they decide to go to Tel Aviv and these other coastal areas where they have no historical ties to. Like, make that make sense. Yeah. Then it talks about the establishment of the militarized Histadrut, which again, very infuriating reading about the Histadrut. So then this Histadrut became central to this drive designated to create a new settlement of blood and common descent and redeem the biblical soil by conquest. So this is where you learn more about that and all of the, the militarism and violence that took place in order to basically Hebraize all of these villages in which Palestinians had existed in for very, very, very long times. Yeah. So yeah, it says Ben-Gurion Zionism instrumentally emphasized Jewish religion and Jewish ethnicity, promoted the cult and mythologies of ancient Israel and biblical battles, promoted the revival of a seemingly dead language, Hebrew, built up what became a powerful army, surrounded its ethically exclusive, pure colony, the Yishuv, with an iron wall, and waged a bitter struggle for political independence and territorial expansion throughout the land of Palestine. So annoying, so just awful. Yeah. Yeah, and the chapter talks about how they were basically every kind of study or field was being engaged to Hebraize the country, right? So it wasn't just the names, it was archaeology, it was science, it was everything, it was botany, it was zoology. That's just insane. This is insanity. How can anyone think that this is normal behavior? Completely going in, taking over a place, and then just reinventing everything. Israel, this is why people say Israel is not real. Is not real. That's why you see pro-Palestinians call it is not real instead of Israel, because it's not real. It's entirely made up, as we can see from this book. Everything has been invented in Israel to justify their colonization. It's not real. It's not real. It's completely made up stuff. Yeah. So yeah, this Hebraization included not only biblicization and Judaization of the country, but also self-indigenization and self-antiquation. So, this is where it talks about how the names and stuff were changed. And then you see a whole bunch of names listed, of important Israelis and Jews, and how their names were changed from these European names to these Hebrew-sounding names. So many people, starting with the first Israeli prime minister, going with, even Golda Meir, Ariel Sharon, and all these people. So he goes through all of their, kind of names and where they actually are from and what their names were changed to in order to kind of give Israel legitimacy. Yeah. Yeah, and he even talks about how a Philistine term such as As Seren, which means a lord, had been used by the Israeli army as a rank equivalent to captain. So this chapter also talks about how sometimes they would use Arabic words because they didn't have Hebrew equivalents and would just Hebraicize the word. So they would make it sound Hebrew. So they are like literally making up Hebrew words that sound Hebrew, but are not actually Hebrew words that were in existence at the time. And in doing that, they're also using they're using Arabic words and sometimes just taking the Arabic word completely and making it, pretending that it's Hebrew. Like, it's just complete insanity. Like, it's really just insanity. Yeah, it says the Israeli state, since 1948, the Israeli state has encouraged a conception of an ethnocentric identity on the basis of the traditions of land and conquest of the Hebrew Bible, especially the Book of Joshua and those dealing with the biblical Israelites' origins that demanded the subjugation and destruction of other peoples. And it says here that, the Book of Joshua is required reading in Israeli schools. So you're basically indoctrinating all these Israeli kids and teaching them that you are the superior being and everyone else should be subjugated. And the author here says, in fact, the Book of Joshua is a work of fiction. Yeah. It says, although the account of the Israelites' enslavement in ancient Egypt as described in the Book of Exodus is generally recognized as a myth, in Israeli schools and universities, this is treated as actual history. Yeah. So, it talks about the different committees and the complicity of academic institutions in trying to legitimize this colonization. Yeah. Again, we learn about more renaming of different places. So yeah, like for example, Hebrew names were assigned to 561 different geographical features in the Negev. And then again, it says some Arabic names became similar sounding Hebrew names. And then we go here to, I want to talk about this one paragraph where, this renaming was going on. And then it says that this committee in this report that they wrote, it said, in one place, 145 names were adopted for antiquities, sites, ruins, and tells, which is Arabic for hills or archaeological mounds. And of those 145 names, 8 names were determined on the basis of historical identification, 16 according to geographical names in the area, 8 according to the meaning of the Arabic words, and the decisive majority of the names, 113, were determined by mimicking the sounds of the Arabic words. So this right here is like a perfect example, and this is just one of many examples of many, many places in Israel where it shows you that they don't have any indigenous connection to this land, and they have to completely make it up, just 100% fabricate. Yeah. So it says the Israeli toponymy committees went far beyond their original mandates. There was simply not enough biblical tradition to go by. So it had to Hebraicize Arabic names, or in other cases, translate Arabic to Hebrew to give the location an ideologically consistent identity. Yeah, and it says further down in this paragraph, this forced exercise of renaming often even went against biblical tradition. Interesting. And then it says the old stones from these Palestinian villages were sold to Jewish contractors to lend local tradition and age to new buildings elsewhere. Yeah, like, just again, insanity. Like, you're trying to turn something new into something old when something old and indigenous already existed there. Just so freaking infuriating. Yeah, so then, the author says, for generations, historians wrote about the indigenous peoples of America from an attitude of cultural superiority that erased or distorted the actual history of the indigenous peoples and their relations with the European settlers. So this one author argues that the impact of European settler colonization is continuing to hurt and destroy indigenous peoples. that the negation of indigenous views of history played a crucial role in asserting colonial ideology, partly because indigenous views were regarded as incorrect or primitive, but primarily because they challenged and resisted the mission of colonization. And again, that's what you see here in Palestine. And as the rest of the world, and this chapter talks about how in other parts of the world, while they are starting to realize the impact that colonization had on indigenous communities, here in Israel, it's completely fucking backwards. Like they're like, you know, full on colonizing Israel, and it's being accepted by these Western powers where, you know, as governments, you know, would be like, you know, proclaiming, oh, we got to give indigenous people, you know, their rights and recognitions and make reparations. And those same governments are backing this Zionist colonization, like complete, utter bullshit. It says, Zionist toponymic strategies in the post-Nakba period pursued more drastic memoricide and erasure and the detachment of the Palestinians from their history. With the physical destruction of hundreds of Palestinian villages and towns during and after 1948, the Israeli state now focused on the erasure of indigenous Palestinian toponymic memory from history and geography. So it says the deletion of historic Palestine from maps and cartography was not only designed to strengthen the newly created state, but also to consolidate the myth of the unbroken link between the days of the biblical Israelites and the modern Israeli state. Yeah, you know, it talks a lot about the obsession with biblical archaeology, blah, 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 and how they often had to like make up, you know, this archaeology to try to like justify their colonization and prove that they had, you know, connections to this land. Elan Papp, who's, you know, we had read one of his books earlier in our book club. So there's a quote from Elan Papp. It says, "The countryside, the rural heart of Palestine with its colorful and picturesque villages was ruined. Half the villages had been destroyed, flattened by Israeli bulldozers." Yeah, just incredibly sad, just really, really sad. And it says that, you know, this is done. They're flattened by bulldozers as a part of an attempt to prevent future claim to the villages. So this chapter showed us a lot about, you know, of different villages that had been completely flattened and destroyed, and in order to prevent Palestinians from trying to come back. Like, just reading this was just so heartbreaking, and just like, I mean, I already know about all of this happening, right? But still reading it was just really heartbreaking. Like imagining, you know, the people as it was happening and what they were going through, just really, really sad. Yeah. Yeah, so it says, you know, again, it's talking about the appropriation of Palestinian villages, etc. And it says this massive appropriation of Palestinian heritage provided support for the European Jewish colonizers' claim to represent an indigenous people returning to its homeland after 2,000 years of exile. After 1948, many of the inhabitants became internal refugees in Israel. So this is talking about the Palestinians in these villages who, you know, that were getting destroyed. So if any were left, they became internal refugees in Israel, present absentees according to Israeli law, and acquired Israeli citizenship, but were not allowed to return to Indur. So this is talking about the village of Indur. And then, you know, he has a chart that gives examples of appropriation of Arabic toponyms and mimicry. So again, you know, this is in loan Arabic place names, translations of Arabic place names, and morphological patterns of renaming. So if you want to read those examples, there's a chart with examples of those. So then here's a quote by an Israeli journalist, Gideon Levy. It says, "The Zionist collective memory exists in both our cultural and physical landscape, yet the heavy price paid by the Palestinians in lives in the destruction of hundreds of villages and in the continuing plight of the Palestinian refugees receives little public recognition. To this day, that holds true." So he wrote that in 2004. Yeah. It talked a lot about the planting of trees. So the Jewish National Fund, which planted so many trees to try to again, legitimize their colonialism. And, you know, and the chapter talked about how it was kind of trying to create this like biblical landscape by planting all of these trees. So they completely destroyed the old olive trees and other trees that were located in these areas so that they can then plant their new pine trees and other trees that are not even indigenous to the area. So I don't know if you guys were watching the news a few weeks ago when the fires started in Israel. And do you know why the fires started in Israel? It was because of the trees that were planted that are not indigenous to that region, which got really dry and caught on fire. And it's like, oh my God, like, I guess you're just getting what you deserve by having destroyed the actual indigenous trees of Israel, Palestine, and then planting trees that are not indigenous to the land. Yeah, so there was a study done about this one village, and which details the destruction of hundreds of villages falling inside the 1949 armistice lines. And it says, of the 418 depopulated villages documented by Walid Khalidi, 293, which is 70%, were totally destroyed. And 22% were largely destroyed. Just incredibly sad and infuriating. And it says the new state also appropriated for itself both immovable assets, including urban residential quarters, transport infrastructure, police stations, railways, schools, libraries, churches, and mosques, as well as books, archival and photo collections, and personal possessions, including silver, furniture, pictures, and carpets. So let's again talk about the genocide that is currently happening of the Palestinians. One thing you will see is when these soldiers destroy Palestinian homes, they make sure to burn any books that they find in the houses. Why do they do this? Because they are trying to destroy the collective memory of the Palestinians. They are trying to make it seem like the Palestinians just never existed. Destroy every last trace of proof that they have that they are an indigenous people to that land. So that's a common thing that you will see when you see Israeli settlers going in and destroying Palestinians' homes and taking them over. They destroy everything that the Palestinians had. They destroy their books, they destroy their photographs, they destroy their letters. Anything that they can find of that sort is destroyed. These people are just monsters. They are like the most vile, despicable, disgusting monsters, like truly. It talks about a mosque that was here, which was turned into a milk farm. And then it says other mosques belonging to destroyed villages were turned into restaurants. One was turned into part of a theme park. Another was turned into a shop. One was turned into part of a tourist resort. One was turned into a bar/restaurant. And one was turned into a tourist site. Yeah, so this is what the Zionists do. They go in and they destroy these ancient sites, these sites of historical importance, and then turn them into other stuff if they're not completely destroying them. Yeah, and then it talks about this one name that they chose. So it says the appropriation of the Palestinian toponym and choice of the new Hebrew name Levi, lion, rather than Levi, the ancient Jewish last name and a Levite member of the priesthood, reflected the self-identity construction of the European Jewish colonists, the new Jews, and Zionism's new relationship to nature, political geography, and tough masculinity. Yeah, and then it was, and then it talks about a sign that the JNF put up, the Jewish National Fund, which said South Africa Forest, parking, in memory of Hans Reisenfeld, Rhodesia, Zimbabwe. Yeah, so you are trying to commemorate like other indigenous, like, other communities who have gone through like, colonization and all of that in your own new colonized land. Like, there's just no self-awareness. There's just complete cognitive dissonance. So yeah, and then going back to the mimicry, like the names, Arabic mimicry. So it says such mimicry may be described as an obsession with archaeology, which makes use of historical remains to prove a sense of belonging. It says the obsession with archaeology and history, as well as with treating them as undisputable truths, is clearly evident in the texts that accompany the design and construction of the gentrified Arab villages and neighborhoods. In this process, the indigenous landscape is uprooted from its political and historical context, redefined as local and replanted through a double act of mimicry into the build your own home sites. Yeah. It says most Israelis today, as a result of Israeli education, regard the Bible as a reliable source of historical information of a secular political kind. The historicization of the Bible is a national enterprise in Israel, carried out by hundreds of scholars at all universities. It says the Israeli Defense Ministry has even published a complete chronology of biblical events, giving exact dates for the creation of the world. Like, how fucking ridiculous is that? Like, exact dates for the creation of the world? Like, really? Like, okay, like, this is what they're doing to legitimize their colonization and their occupation of Palestine. Like, complete insanity. Again, it talks about how they're claiming this ancient mythology as history is an essential part of Zionist secular nationalism in its attempt to present a coherent account of the genesis of the Jewish people in ancient West Asia. It provides a focus of identification to counter the rabbinical diaspora traditions. So the Bible is taught as history to Israeli children. And in it, it says Abraham, So it says, it is Abraham, the first Zionist, migrating to Palestine. Joshua in the conquest of Palestine, wiping out the Canaanites, just like today. King David's conquest of Jerusalem, just like today. It's quite interesting how it shows here that Abraham migrated to Palestine and Joshua, wiped out the Canaanites. So wouldn't the Canaanites actually be the indigenous people of Palestine and not these Hebrews then? If you really want to, go back, and if you actually look at DNA testing today, it shows that the Palestinians have more Canaanite DNA than any of the Jews that are living in Israel today. They have no fucking connection to this land. It's ridiculous. So again, talking more about the curriculum that is taught in schools, etc., etc. What else? It talks about how this process all began with the Christian explorers and archaeologists and Bible scholars from Europe and the United States who visited Palestine from the mid-19th century when the country was under Turkish rule. We kind of already saw that earlier when we read before. So again, it talks about secularizing biblical archaeology, giving Jewish history flesh and bones, recovering the ancient past, putting it in a dynastic order, and returning to the archival site of Jewish identity, blah, blah, blah. So biblical archaeology was always central to the construction of Israeli Jewish identity and the perceived legitimacy of the Israeli state. So again, it says the inevitable outcome of the obsession with the Hebrew Bible has resulted in focusing on the Israelite identity of a land that has actually been non-Jewish in terms of its indigenous population for the larger part of its recorded history. But it says, this state of affairs would not exist in any other part of the planet, allowing this one group to come in and claim that they are the indigenous ones. It's saying that would, this state of affairs would not exist elsewhere today. And that is true. But again, Israelis, Jews just completely get a pass. Zionists completely getting a pass here for their colonization. It says traditional biblical scholarship has been essentially Zionist and has participated in the elimination of the Palestinian identity, as if 1400 years of Muslim occupation of this land meant nothing. Yeah, it says the Israeli historians, biblical scholars, archaeologists, and geographers have reinvented and reconstructed a history of chronology of ancient Palestine based on Israeli identity politics, so as to emphasize the Jewish connection to the land. So this is interesting. So it says here, from the early Muslim period onward, however, they adopted the nomenclature of the conqueror's chronology, since in this way it was possible to divide the approximately 1400 years of Muslim Arab rule into units that were shorter than the period of Jewish rule over the Eretz Israel/Palestine, which lasted at most for 600 years, and especially to portray the history of the country as a long period of rule by a series of foreign powers who had robbed it from the Jews, a period that ended in 1948 with the reestablishment of Jewish sovereignty in Palestine. So they're like completely rewriting history to again make it seem like that they're the indigenous ones and that all the other people that existed there were not indigenous and that they were kind of like broken up into little conquests of Palestine. Yeah. What else? Yeah, just more of the same. Again, it's talking about the trees. Thousands of acres of pine forest were planted by the Jewish National Fund, forests which are both intended to camouflage destroyed Palestinian villages and fashion a new pastoral biblical landscape. Yeah, it says camouflage the systematically expropriated land of Palestinian villages, the destruction of cultivated olive groves, and the ethnic cleansing of the Nakba. One thing that we often see in social media is that, and I think that this is so true, like, you know, it's Palestinians saying that if the Zionists were truly indigenous to the land, they would not be destroying those olive groves. They would not be destroying those olive trees because olive trees take a long time to grow to full maturity, and you know, destroying it is basically seen almost as like blasphemy. You know, it's like it's just a really horrible thing. And you know, you'll see videos and images of Palestinians crying when their olive trees are being destroyed, and it's just so incredibly heartbreaking. And here are these people who are like thinking that they're indigenous to the land and just destroying everything. If you were indigenous to the land, you would not destroy what's already there. You would not be destroying these olive trees. Like, how can anyone think that these people, these settlers, these Zionists, these colonizers are in the right, that they are the ones who are in the right after seeing everything that they've done, after seeing all the crimes they've committed against not just humans, but against nature? Like, they are just complete and utter monsters. Yeah. Yeah, it says the very thing that renders the landscape biblical or pastoral is tradition, inhabitants, and cultivation in terraces, olive orchards, stone buildings, and the presence of livestock is produced by the Palestinians, who the Jewish settlers came to replace. Yeah, just really sad. Oh, and then it talks about Ascalon. So, you know, this was just really sad to read about as well, you know, about how this place was colonized and, you know, all the Palestinians were removed. It's just really sad. So it says that Al-Majdal was established in the 16th century near the medieval Muslim city of Ascalon, a city that had a long history and a multi-layered identity dating back to the ancient Philistines. And then it says it was one of the 5 famous cities of the Philistines: Gaza, Gath, Ascalon, Ashdod, and Ekron. So yeah, it says Al-Majdal was conquered by the Israeli army on 4 November 1948, and many of its residents and refugees fled, leaving some 2,700 inhabitants, mostly women and the elderly, behind. And then the military demanded that the town be emptied of its Arabs. And it says the Israeli army made the life of those Palestinians who did remain behind a misery. So even if any did remain, they were just completely miserable by the way that they were treated. And we see this even today. We see this like happen all the time, even in the West Bank. Like, you know, the West Bank as we speak is being illegally settled right now by Israelis. So it says the Palestinian inhabitants of Majdal received received expulsion orders, and over a period of a few weeks were transported to the borders of Gaza. They were loaded onto trucks and dropped off at the border. The last delivery of 229 people left for Gaza on 21 October 1950. The Israeli officials distributed the abandoned houses among new Jewish settlers. Like, just so heartbreaking and infuriating. I just cannot imagine being a Palestinian who has lost their home. Like, just so, it's just really, really sad. And, it says to this day, these Palestinians, are the ones who are living in, like, basically, some of them now, most of them now are probably homeless because there's literally nothing left in Gaza. If you look at what's left of Gaza right now, there's literally nothing. And at one point in time they had homes, but it's just really, really sad. Again, it's talking about more trees, but talking about the Palestine oak tree. So it says in ancient Palestine, this tree had its own cult and local mythology. Derived from local religious traditions, it is associated with life and is supposed to have grown since the beginning of the world. It says planting a European-style forest in the sacred soil and sacred landscape confirms the undeniable ethical value of Israel's, and by extension the West's, project in the East. And then it talks about how this Hebraization and Biblicization and Judaization continued post-1967, and then it talks about all the road names and how those were converted, etc., etc. What else? It says here, it says Palestinian nationalism must not be automatically conflated with the Palestinian social, cultural, and religious identities, which are deeply rooted in the land as well as in the ancient history and toponymic memory of Palestine. Palestinians until the 1948 catastrophe were predominantly peasants, deeply rooted in the physical and cultural landscapes of Palestine. It says the Palestinian Muslim population was mainly descended from local Palestinian Christians and Jews who had converted to Islam after the Islamic conquest in the 7th century and inherited many of the social, cultural, religious, and linguistic traditions of ancient Palestine, including those of the Israelites, Canaanites, and Philistines. So it says Arabic was not a late intruder into Palestine from 638 AD onwards. So it says, it's talking about the similarities in languages, and so that Arabic was not a late intruder. So it says Palestinians are descendants of an extensive mixing of local and regional peoples, including the Canaanites, Philistines, Hebrews, Samaritans, Hellenic Greeks, Romans, Nabatean Arabs, tribal nomadic Arabs, some Europeans from the Crusades, some Turks, and other minorities after the Islamic conquest of the 7th century. However, they became overwhelmingly Arabs. And it says, thus, this mixed stock of people had developed an Arab Islamic culture for at least 14 centuries. It says, indeed, it would not be unreasonable to argue that modern Palestinians are more likely to be the descendants of ancient Philistines and Israelites than Ashkenazi Jews, many of whom were European converts to Judaism. Essentially, historically, in contrast to the myth of exile and return, many of the original Jewish inhabitants of ancient Palestine remained in the country, but had accepted Christianity and Islam many generations later. It says more and more archaeologists and biblical scholars are convinced that the ancestors of the Israelites had never been in Egypt, and that the biblical paradigm of military conquest of Canaan was completely fictional. It says, indigenous Palestinians have devoted much attention to the enormously rich sedimentations of village history and oral traditions as a reminder of the continuity of native life and living practices. That's the end. So we finished this book, and what did this book teach us? It taught us that Palestinians are the indigenous people of Palestine who have a very long and rich history in Palestine, that Palestine was not a land without people, and that Jews were not a people without a home. They had homes in Europe, but they decided to leave those homes so that they could colonize Palestine and then completely make up this new state with made-up names and a made-up history, and call it their own. Like, that's what this book teaches us, and I think it is like really important, critical reading today as the genocide of the Palestinians continues. So thank you so much to everyone who read this book with me. I really appreciate it. I learned so much from reading this, and I hope you did too. I hope you learned a lot. So thank you again so much for reading this with me. So I think we should be proud of ourselves that we have been educating ourselves about Palestine, about the truth as this genocide continues. From October of 2023, but as we can see, the genocide really began a very long time ago, but you know, we'll say that it's in its most severe, like, intense part right now. So speaking of genocide, the next book we're reading is called Genocide Bad by Sim Kern. So if you haven't gotten this book yet, please do pick it up. And for next time, please read. So I don't know if the foreword and all of that has important information, but, you know, I think it might just be good background. So I think we can just start there, and it'll probably give people a chance who don't have this book yet to pick it up as well. So I would say let's read the foreword and the and part 1, How I Became a Reluctant Influencer for a Free Palestine. Yeah. So let me see what that goes up to. Actually, I wonder if maybe we can read a little bit more than that. Let's see. Yeah, let's just read that. So let's read everything up to the end of page 24. So stop at where it begins, who are you to speak on Israel? And then we'll see from there on what we will read and like how many segments and stuff. So yeah, so please pick this book up if you haven't already, and please join me in reading Genocide Bad. Sim Kern is an influencer who I follow on Instagram primarily, but also on TikTok, and they have been really just amazing in raising funds for Palestinian families. They've been really amazing as a Jewish person and speaking out against the horrors that Israel is committing. You know, they're an anti-Zionist Jewish person. And I think it's important to get a voice from today who is very active in speaking out against this genocide. So it'll just provide us kind of a different perspective, and I'm really looking forward to reading this, and I hope that you are too. So please pick up Genocide Bad and read up to the end of page 24 for next time. So thank you so much for joining me in this book club, and I hope that you will continue on with this book with me. So yeah, so thank you. So let's move on. So in this week's rant of the week, I just want to talk about a couple of things. So firstly, let's look at this one post of Our Family Plays Games that is promoting the Zionist publisher Kids Table Board Gaming. So they continue to promote Zionism, and as I've talked about time and time again, like, if you claim to be pro-Palestinian, you cannot support Zionists in this industry. And we've talked at length about how KTGB and Burnt Island Games is owned by Zionists. And I mean, I've discussed it at length, so I don't think that there should be any question about the fact that Helena Kappel is a Zionist and her husband is a Zionist, and you know, that they represent Zionist values. And what are Zionist values? Zionist values are occupation, apartheid, racism, genocide, nothing good. So if you are a Zionist, you are not representing anything good. You are representing all that is evil in this world today. And here we have everyone's favorite Black family in the board game industry supporting a Zionist publisher. So again, you know, I keep on seeing people promoting games from this publisher, just turning a blind eye to Zionists in this industry. It's just never going to end, apparently. Like, I can, you know, come here and say time and time again what Zionism is. I can try to educate people a lot, which I have, on what Zionism is. And people just continue to remain silent and turn a blind eye to their friends in this industry supporting Zionists because, you know, they would just rather continue supporting their friends than acknowledge the truth about their friends. It's just really hypocritical and disgusting. So yeah, so that is the first thing I want to just show that was recent. And then I want to talk about a couple of things that Eric Lang said recently. So the first thing I want to talk about is a post that he made recently on Blue Sky, encouraging people to, well, saying that AOC is the leader that everyone needs. So he wrote on Blue Sky, "My God, AOC may not be," he forgot the word be, "may not be the leader the USA deserves right now, but she sure as hell is the leader y'all need." So again, I just want to talk about how Eric Lang yet again gets it wrong. So AOC, if anyone was paying attention to the election cycle, when she was advocating and, you know, speaking up for Kamala Harris and encouraging everyone to vote for the genocidal bitch Harris, like, she would not at any point condemn the genocide. So AOC to this day has not condemned the genocide. She has not literally said that it's a genocide and that she condemns it. Many speeches that were made during the election cycle, she would not answer pro-Palestinian people. She would always like deflect and, you know, change the subject and blah, blah, blah. She is not an advocate for Palestinians, and pro-Palestinian activists do not support AOC. Like, we have seen what a sellout she is. We have seen that she actually does not stand for the things that she claimed to stand for. So yet again, Eric gets it wrong. Like, you know, it seemed like he was starting to get it right. Like, it seemed like for a while he was starting to understand that the people in the Democratic Party are all the same and that they don't actually give a shit about people. But yet again, he's here getting it wrong. Just like he got it wrong when he praised Cory Booker. Like, we've seen what Cory Booker has done since his stupid, filibuster. Since his filibuster, what has Cory Booker done? Like, it's become even more apparent what a Zion Nazi shell Cory Booker is. And now he's trying to write a book about his experience, about his filibuster. Like, all these people care about is money and power. Like, they are all the fucking same. And Cory Booker is a big recipient of AIPAC. So he gets a shit ton of money from AIPAC. So for the love of God, like, I just don't understand. I don't understand why people take Eric Lang to be like some political expert, and especially being a Canadian, like a political expert about politics in America. And he gives his shitty opinions and everyone's like, "Oh yeah, you're so right, you're so right." Like, oh my God, I just wish he would stop giving his shitty opinions and having, you know, feeling a need to comment on everything when he clearly, you know, still believes that the lesser of two evils should be voted for. And is that going to make change? No, like, it's not going to make change, which brings me to another post that he made that I want to talk about. So on Facebook, he wrote, so let me bring it up if I can find it. Where is it? One second, I'm getting there. I can't find his Facebook post. Where is it? Oh, here we go. So he made a Facebook post saying, "Respect to those using their voices to amplify issues affecting the vulnerable. Much more respect to those who quietly navigate the soul-crushing levers of power to deliver material benefits to the vulnerable. Not mutually exclusive, but sometimes it is. And the loud get all the glory or clout or whatever, while the latter are often more consequential. Also, zero respect for the screaming accelerationists, who don't respect that accelerationism without class consciousness is just grievance, fantasy, and inevitably fascism." Now, disclaimer, I have no idea what this post is in regards to. Like, is it in regards to Palestine? Is it in regards to something else? Who knows? I think that Eric Lang purposely makes vague posts like this to give himself plausible deniability, right? So if it is if it is with respect to Palestine, then it's complete and utter bullshit, right? But he can just come back and say, oh, no, it wasn't about Palestine, it was about something else. So again, purposely staying vague and making posts like this so that he can come off as seeming really enlightened about activism and giving his shitty takes as always. And everyone is like, yes, Eric, good job, Eric. We love you, Eric. You're so smart, Eric. Like, no, again, fucking bullshit. So I'm going to talk about this as though it is about Palestine and why, again, it's complete bullshit. So first of all, if it is about Palestine, I would love to know, what he is doing with respect to, helping the vulnerable in this genocide. Because we've seen time and time again, he's just only in the past given shitty takes about Israel and Palestine, and he has not once condemned the genocide. So I would love to know, like, what he is doing in order to, navigate the soul-crushing levers of power to deliver material benefits to the Palestinians. Like, what is he doing? Because as far as I can see, he's just a fucking Zion Nazi shill who keeps his mouth shut about the genocide because he doesn't want to upset those who pay him money to make games. Like, if you are literally getting paid by companies that are owned by Zionists, you're going to keep your mouth shut and not condemn the genocide. And if he's acting like, doing behind the scenes work is what's more consequential and more important right now when it comes to a genocide, no, you would be fucking wrong. Because a genocide requires immediate and loud action to stop it. It is not something that you stop with quiet action in the background. It is a fucking genocide. This is not something that takes years and years of quiet work in the background to address. This is not like, some long, ongoing systemic issue that you can try to quietly address in the background. People are getting killed. People are getting burned alive. People are getting their heads blown off. People are getting forcibly starved. It is a genocide. This does not require people to just be quiet about their activism. It requires the opposite. It requires people to be very loud and be loud in order to get more people to join your cause and show the people in power that no, we do not support this genocide. No, we do not support you using our tax dollars to arm Israel and to send all these bombs, these bombs that are being tested on Palestinians, these new weapons which are being tested on Palestinians. It requires people to be very loud. Genocide requires you to be loud, not to do things quietly in the background to deliver material benefits to the vulnerable. What fucking bullshit. So if this is about the genocide, again, he is completely and fucking wrong as always when it comes to Israel and Palestine. And if he is doing quiet stuff in the background, fucking show us what you're doing. Because as far as I've seen, he's given a bad take after bad take whenever it comes to Israel and Palestine. And he says the loud get all the glory or clout or whatever. So again, if this is with respect to Palestine, I'm probably the loudest person in this industry, and I can assure you I'm not getting any fucking glory or clout or whatever. I'm getting quite the opposite. I've had so many people unfriend me and block me and stop doing business with me, including people who were kind of a similar ethnic background to me, who have just completely ghosted me, like this one publisher in this industry who claimed to be a friend and was of a half Arab background, completely ghosted me many, many months ago. And yeah, so that's what happens when you are loud about a genocide and call out hypocrites in the industry. People don't like that, and then people ghost you and they, unfriend you and they stop doing business with you because people are fucking cowards and they're Zionist shills. So if he, again, is talking about Palestine, and again, I don't know what he's talking about, but again, he obviously would make a vague statement like this because it allows him to have plausible deniability then when it comes to, people criticizing him. But if he is talking about Palestine, there's no fucking glory or clout with being loud about the genocide. I have gotten the complete opposite of that. So yeah. And then he says, zero respect for screaming accelerationists who don't respect the accelerationism without class consciousness is just grievance fantasy and inevitably fascism. Okay, so all the people who are screaming about the genocide, the vast majority, from what I have seen, on Instagram and TikTok and elsewhere, do have class consciousness. Like, they are more class conscious than other activists that I have seen. It's the reason why we supported Jill Stein. It's the reason why we recognized from the beginning that the Democratic Party is complete and fucking bullshit, and that they're complete sellouts, that they are complete apex sellouts, because they only care about lining their own pockets. They only care about the oligarchy. Like, they do not give a fucking shit about anyone else in America. They do not care about the average American. Like, pro-Palestinian activists are class conscious. Like, I am class conscious as someone who has been who was a legal aid attorney for 7 years, who fought to keep people in their houses from being evicted. Like, I am a very class conscious person and have always been. Yeah, so I really don't know what the hell this whole post that Eric made is about. Like, again, no idea, but again, I think if he's talking about Palestine, he again is fucking missing the mark. And again, I'm just really sick of seeing people praise him every time he makes a statement like this. Like, can you like fucking actually show us what you're doing instead of just making statements about how you're working behind the scenes? Like, if you're actually fucking doing something, then show us what you're doing, so that we think that you, or know that you're actually deserving of this praise that you're getting. Like, all I ever see Eric Lang doing is talking about the stuff he does behind the scenes, but never actually showing what he's doing. Like, okay, like anyone can say I'm doing stuff, but I just can't talk about it. Like, I'm really fighting to make a difference in this world, but I'm just not going to tell you what I'm doing. I'm just not going to show it to you. Like, but you just have to trust me. You just have to believe me that I'm putting my own profits and my own money on the line and fighting for good, but I'm just not going to show it to you, because why would I show it to you? Like, I don't need that praise, but I'll make posts like these that talk about how I'm doing that stuff to then get the praise, but not actually show you what I'm doing. Like, it's just completely mind-boggling how people just eat this shit up and then praise Eric Lang for being like a leader of diversity, equity, and inclusion in this industry and fighting for human rights. Yeah, it's just complete and utter bullshit. Like, this industry just never fails to disappoint with how stupid, like truly stupid, and like brainless people in this industry are. Like, just completely stupid and brainless, and just minions who will just follow and follow and follow and not use their brains to think critically about anything. Like, the vast majority of people in this board game industry is like lack critical thinking skills from what I have seen. It's just completely ridiculous. Yeah, so I just really wanted to talk about these stupid, shitty posts from Eric Lang. And then I want to talk about some posts. Like, I just somehow ended up coming across some older posts from a known Zionist. So Isaac Shalev, who is a designer, a board game designer. Somehow I came across a post of his on Facebook, and then I ended up clicking on his profile and ended up going through his profile to look at some old posts, blah, blah, blah. And then I came across this one post. So he, again, this is really disappointing to see, but also not surprising. So Ben Maddox, who is the content creator of 5 Games for Doomsday, and he actually interviewed me many years ago, and my guess would be he's probably taken down that interview. That would be my guess. But Ben Maddox in October 2024, wrote, "In the Middle East, one side uses missiles to protect its people and the other side uses its people to protect its missiles." Rahm Emanuel. What is he saying? Here is this German content creator, Ben Maddox, basically accusing Palestinians of using human shields, which is a lie that has been debunked time and time again. And you can see that Isaac Shalev retweeted or reposted this on Facebook, shared it on Facebook. And I, in previous videos, I've taken, shown screenshots of Isaac Shalev and his support for Israel previously. He and I are not friends on Facebook, so I can't, see stuff that he posts on Facebook unless it's public, and the only things that I can see are like on Twitter or Blue Sky. But he is a known Zionist. He is a known Israel supporter. And here you see him, sharing a German content creator's post. And again, we've talked about how Germany is on the wrong fucking side of history. So Germany, because, it was responsible for the Holocaust during World War II and has been trying to make up for that fact, for the genocide that they committed, they are now in support of another genocide. So yeah, so they kind of, you know, did a whole 360, like oopsies, right? So like instead of actually recognizing when a genocide is taking place, in order to make up for the genocide that they committed, they are now supporting yet another genocide that's committed by the people who claim that they don't want that to ever happen again to anyone else. Never again, never again. But apparently never again only applies to Jews. It does not apply to Palestinians or Arabs or Christians or Muslims or anyone else. So you have this German content creator falling for all this propaganda and bullshit. Like, you know, it's just so infuriating, like how people just cannot pick up a fucking book to read and learn and see that everything that they are believing in is just complete and utter propaganda and a lie. Like this human shield bullshit has been proven to be a lie time and time again. Yet you have people who otherwise seem somewhat intelligent or, you know, reasonably intelligent believing in this bullshit. Like there are just so many fucking stupid people in this industry. Like really, truly. Okay. So recently I watched Andor, which is a series on Disney, and spoiler alert, I'm going to talk about what happened a little bit in season 2 in a speech that was made in season 2. So in season 2 of Andor, you see what someone is claiming, a character is claiming is a genocide. So I want to talk about this one speech that a senator made in the TV show Andor. So I'm just gonna read it for you. Really good speech, by the way, like really fantastic speech. So the senator makes the speech. Fellow senators, friends, colleagues, allies, adversaries. Why can I just not pronounce words today? I stand before you this morning with a heavy heart. I've spent my life in this chamber. I came here as a child, and as I look around now, I realize I have almost no memories that predate my arrival and few bonds or of affection that cleave so tightly. Through these many years, I believe I have served my constituents honorably and upheld our code of conduct, blah, blah, blah. This chamber is a cauldron of opinions, and we've certainly all had our patience and tempers tested in pursuit of our ideals. Disagree as we might, I am hopeful that those of you who know me will vouch for my credibility in the days to come. I stand this morning with a difficult message. I believe we are in crisis. The distance between what is said and what is known to be true has become an abyss. Of all the things at risk, the loss of an objective reality is perhaps the most dangerous. The death of truth is the ultimate victory of evil. When the truth leaves us, when we let it slip away, when it is ripped from our hands, we become vulnerable to the appetite of whatever monster screams the loudest. This chamber's hold on the truth was finally lost on the Gorman Plaza. What took place yesterday, what happened yesterday on Gorman was unprovoked genocide. Yes, genocide. And that truth has been exiled from this chamber. And that monster is the monster screaming the loudest, the monster we've helped create, the monster who will come for us all soon enough is Emperor Palpatine. Like, oh my God, what a great speech. And you can word for word make it about Israel and Palestine. Like word for word. Like what we've seen is Israel try to, you know, completely eliminate the truth and have people believe and hang on to these lies so that the monster Israel, can continue to control and rule and commit its atrocities, its genocide. Like the people of the Gorman Plaza are the Palestinians. Truth has been lost. Israeli propaganda, like billions are spent on Israeli propaganda every year trying to, you know, brainwash the masses into believing that Israel is the victim and the Palestinians are the aggressor. You cannot claim that the Palestinians, who are the occupied people, are the aggressor. Occupiers do not have a right to self-defense. It's the the occupied, the Palestinians, who are the ones engaging in self-defense. It's the Israelis, the Zionists, the occupiers who are the aggressors here. They are not the fucking victims. And it did not begin on October 7th. It began a long time before October 7th, as we've seen from reading books like this. Like, unbelievable. Yet you have all these people who would watch Andor, who would watch Star Wars, who would side with the rebels, but then in reality side with Emperor Palpatine, because that is exactly what they are doing. They are siding with the Empire. They are siding with the Imperial forces. They are siding with the aggressors. They are siding with those who are committing genocide. Like, why is it that you have such cognitive dissonance that when it comes to reality, you cannot see who the true aggressor is and who the victim is? Like, why are people so fucking blind to the truth? Yeah, I mean, Israel does spend a shit ton of money on propaganda and people eat up that propaganda. But like, the fact is that everyone should be smart enough to question what they believe in. Like, when you believe in something, you should be able to say to yourself, is what I believe in true? Is what I believe in actually accurate? Like, maybe I should dig a little bit deeper and start doing some research and learn about the truth. Like, I try to do this with whatever I'm learning about. Like, even, you know, I've many times doubted, you know, my own beliefs and have tried to, you know, challenge my own beliefs to make sure that I'm on the right side of history. Like, this is something that everyone should be doing. So it's really just unbelievable that people, when it comes to movies and books, will be on the right side, you know, when it comes to reading those. They're not going to be like, oh yeah, I'm with the Empire in Star Wars. Yeah, like, I support the stormtroopers. Like, yeah, I totally support those who commit genocide. Like, who does that? Like, who really sides with the bad sides in these movies and books? Yet in reality, they're completely happy to side with the bad side, with the wrong side of history. Like Ben Maddox and Isaac Shalev and like Our Family Plays Games and all these people who support Zionists and Israel are on the wrong fucking side of history. All those people who are silent, because when it comes to genocide, silence is complicity. Like, this is a genocide. Like, a freaking genocide. Your silence is complicity. Like, and when this genocide ends someday, and if all these wrongs are made right, and, you know, we start seeing Palestinians allowed back into their homes, and we start seeing, you know, the world change, you can remember that you were on the wrong fucking side of history by staying silent when a genocide was being live streamed to your phone, to your tablets, to your computers, and you stayed fucking silent because you didn't want to lose business. You didn't want to, you know, make sure, you know, you wanted to ensure that you still had your Zionist money coming in, because that's what's more important to you, because you have no fucking integrity. So yeah, so that is all I have to say this week. Like, that is my rant of the week. And, you know, whenever I see stuff pop up, whenever I come across it, I will share it and I will let you know who the fucking Zionists are in this industry. Oh, but before we go, I just want to share a comment that I got on a video recently. Like, maybe it was a couple weeks ago, but I didn't notice it until just last week. But here I received a comment where someone says that I think I'm Muslim. And that's why I, you know, speak up about Palestine. What is it with people on the internet who think that they know you better than you know yourself? Like, no, I don't think I'm Muslim. I am Muslim. Like, for over 30 years of my life, have I just been pretending to go to the mosque? Have I just been pretending to do Muslim prayers? Have I just been pretending to fast during Ramadan? Like, what kind of bullshit is this? Am I just going to pretend to be in Iraq in December when I'm visiting some, you know, really important Islamic sites, and which is why I'm going to Iraq? Like, just insanity, like, just complete insanity, the things that people will say and believe on the internet and try to discredit you. Like, no, I don't think I'm Muslim, I am Muslim. And yes, it is important to me. It's a humanitarian issue, but more than that, as someone, like, you know, of a Muslim background, a Middle Eastern background in this industry, when there are not many of us, there's very few of us, and I seem to be the most vocal of them all. Like, I have to, you know, be outspoken, because I cannot just sit by and watch a genocide take place and watch all these people in this industry who are a bunch of hypocrites who claim to care about humanity just sit silently and do nothing. Like, I'm going to point out all the hypocrisy. And again, when this genocide is over someday, and I will remind them that they were silent, they were complicit, and they cannot at all take credit for being on the right side of history, because if you are silent, you are complicit. And if you have not once condemned the genocide, you are complicit. Yeah, and you are on the wrong side of history. So yeah, people can leave me shitty comments. I've gotten so many shitty comments on my videos before. There was this like one Zionist who kept on leaving shitty comments on my videos, and at one point he was like, oh, I didn't even watch your segment about tariffs, but I can't wait for you to, you know, go under when tariffs affect your business. And it's like, dude, you don't know anything about me. Like, tariffs are not going to make me stop making video content. Like, how's that going to affect my content creation? And then when I told him I'm an attorney and I'm still going to have money to spend on board games, even if they're more expensive, I'm just going to have to be a little bit more careful about what I spend money on. Of course, he had no reply then. You know, people are always just leaving shitty comments because they have nothing better to do. Oh, and someone else left a comment saying that, oh, I am, you know, I've committed libel against Rodney Smith. No, I didn't commit libel. Like, his shitty statement speaks for himself. I said he has not once condemned the genocide. Accurate. He has not once condemned the genocide. He issued a statement where he's basically making excuses for himself about why he hasn't condemned the genocide and why he doesn't talk about it. And that was made almost 2 years ago. That statement was made in November of 2023. So, you know, he's had a shit ton of time to educate himself about the genocide and issue some kind of a statement. Has he? No. I have not said anything that is inaccurate about Rodney Smith and all these other losers that claim to care about diversity, equity, and inclusion, and human rights. I haven't said anything that's inaccurate. So, you know, and if they feel I have, like, they can always come and try to talk to me, but they never do because they know that they have nothing to say. Like, they could not say anything that would justify their silence and their complicity because they are fucking hypocrites and shills. So yeah, but you know, my door's always open. If they want to come forward and talk to me and have a conversation, we totally can, but they're never going to because they just fucking suck and they have no integrity. So yeah, so that's that. That is my rant of the week. So let's move on. So since UKGE is over now, and it was just this past weekend, and yes, I had serious UKGE withdrawal, with this being the first one in 4 years that I haven't been to. But since it was this past weekend, I want to ask what game at UKGE that was either a new release or a new demo was the game that you were most excited about. And you don't even have to have attended UKGE to answer this question, because, like, you know, you can always find out what games were being released or demoed at a convention without having even gone there. So unfortunately I did not go to UKGE, but had I gone, I think the game I would have been most excited about would have been Ofrenda, to demo it. But you know, I am grateful to be a content creator and to have had access to Ofrenda before, you know, it even was being demoed at UKGE. And I'm so grateful to someone who was able to pick up a promo card for Ofrenda for me from UKGE. So I'm going to get that card from them at Essen, but it's a cat. So basically the artist of Ofrenda, he had a cat who died from what I remember reading on Instagram. So they created a promo card of their cat that you can now play with and hopefully add to your Ofrenda. So as you guys know, I love cats. I have 2 of my own and I take care of 2 colonies of stray cats. So I'm super excited that someone was able to pick up this promo card for me because I really desperately wanted it. So yeah, so I'm really excited to get this promo card when I go to Essen in October. So yeah, but yeah, I think Ofrenda is probably the game I would have been most excited to play, or maybe Pergola. Yeah, but again, you know, I'm really grateful to have had access to these games to play them. So yeah, but let me know which game you would have been most excited for at UKGE and whether you intend to get that game once it's released or you've already gotten it. Let me know in the comments below. And until next week, bye.